What's going on, guys? This is the Red Rogue, and I hope you're all doing well today. Prior to patch 9.05, there were only 2 mounts in the game that could traverse the hellish landscapes that are the Maw, unless you were like a cheater druid or worgen or something. Either way, a new Maw mount has been added in patch 9.05, though it does have some kinda specific requirements and does take a bit of time and effort to get. Thank you so much for joining me today. Now let's see how we can get our hands on the newest Maw mount, the Bound Shadehound. As always, this video will be segmented out so you can skim through at your leisure and find spots of info that you might have forgotten while on your crusade for this canine companion. If you have any further questions, feel free to ask me in a comment below or swing by my community Discord. The link for that will be in the description of this video. So, as you've all seen, the Maw is a terrible and foreboding place. Not only is it like basically and literally the hell of Shadowlands, but you can't mount there, and that sucks. And this is because your mounts, as the error that shows up on your screen puts it, will ignore your call. Yes, even your motorcycles, Gundams, mechas, flying carpets, manhole covers, kites, and all the other inanimate objects and standard vessels of transportations that have no free will. They apparently all put their phones on silent and are awkwardly checking their missed calls like once every few months, but yeah, they still don't answer. The Maw-sworn Soul Hunter and the Corridor Creeper were the first 2 mounts introduced in Shadowlands that were able to be used in the Maw. However, one is an exceptionally rare drop, and the other requires completing all 8 layers of twisting corridors. However, a third mount was found on the PTR by some folks much better at finding secrets than I am, the Bound Shadehound. This mount is able to be acquired within a day, if you're patient enough and have met some pre-existing criteria, which I'll be going over in this video in a step-by-step process of how to earn the mount. And I'll be entirely honest with you folks, even while already having a Maw mount that I was able to use while getting the footage for this video, it still took me at least 6 hours straight, including being able to stealth and CC things to skip them, so plan on this taking a bit of time. Let's start with the minimum requirements needed to earn this mount. Firstly, you need to be at the maximum reputation level appreciative with Venari. This is earned from killing rares, looting special items called Maw lore, and doing quests for her. This in itself is a pretty lengthy process if you haven't done it yet, as it can easily take a month to reach this reputation level, or more. Another small bit of info I noticed on another account is that I'm pretty sure you need to make sure you complete Venari's final story quest, Rule 7, Betrayal is Inevitable. This unlocks when you hit appreciative level, but you don't technically have to do it to buy stuff at appreciative level. But it is a really short quest, so just make sure you have this done, as I'm pretty certain that if you don't do this, the item that you need to start the secret won't show up. Secondly, you want to make sure you have at least 3,500 Stygia with you, and that you already possess the animated levitating chain, as you'll be doing a lot of grappling to high up locations in the Maw. This costs 1,050 Stygia, so plan accordingly if you haven't purchased it already. You may also want to just consider keeping a cipher of relocation on you, and some of those Oil of Ethereal Forces, unless you're a sneaky type like a rogue or a druid or something. There will be a lot of enemies in your way, and you don't want to just kill things randomly because your Eye of the Jailer level will get really high really quickly. Invisibility potions might be a good idea too if you want to play it safe. Another precaution, avoid completing any events or dailies or anything while doing this, as you're going to be passively accruing quite a bit of Eye of the Jailer. Okay, so now that you've hopefully prepared, head to Venari's Refuge and you should see a new item for sale in her last page of the inventory, the Stygia Dowser. This will set you back 1,500 Stygia, and will allow you to interact with Stygia Nexuses, these floating green orbs that you'll see marked on your minimap when you get close to them. You'll right-click on the Stygia Dowser in your inventory while near one to suck up some Stygia from them, as well as some Stygia Slivers and Stygia Dust. The Nexuses are generally in the literal worst places possible, like in caves full of evil pricks, and on the edges of cliffs, and high up in the air on things you need to grapple up to, and things like that. You will be seeing a lot of these while earning this mount, so get used to remembering as many spawn points as you can. Trust me. Oh, and anytime you see these, make sure you grab them, as only the first person who interacts with it gets the items from the Nexus. You're going to need 200 of both the Stygia Dust and Stygia Slivers, and you only get a couple each time you absorb a Nexus. And I nearly forgot to mention, because this is super important and is why I was mentioning not to kill a bunch of stuff earlier. Every time you absorb a Stygia Nexus, you will gain a bit of Eye of the Jailer, so I highly advise doing this when you don't plan on doing any dailies or weeklies or anything that pisses him off, as you really don't want to hit level 5 Eye of the Jailer with how much running around you're going to be doing in this quest chain. For our first step to the puzzle, we're going to head to Perdition Hold. I'll leave coordinates on screen for relevant things, but basically there will be a grappling point to take you up to this section of Perdition Hold that we need to get to. You'll know you're going in the right direction because there should be a large green cloud of Stygia dust and a warning telling you that your Stygia Dowser is pulling to the southeast. You'll then grapple up to this small tower that has an even larger cloud of Stygia, and an action button should appear on your UI. Using this action button will phase you to a weird grayed out version of the same area, and you'll see a chest with 6 runes floating above it. These runes need to be moved into the correct order by clicking on 2 different ones to swap their positions. But what is the order? Well, if you look up around you, each of the spikes surrounding the tower have a matching symbol to the puzzle. To give you a frame of reference, the order is clockwise from the spikes, starting from the spike behind you and to your left. I'll try to mark what I mean on screen so it's easier to explain, but once you know the order, you'll simply swap the order of all the runes to match the spikes and the chest will open. Inside you will find the crumbling steel. This is a key part for the puzzle, but by itself won't do us any good. Next, we'll return to Venari, so a Cipher of Relocation will speed this part up a lot. She will have another item for sale now, a partial rune codex for 2,000 Stygia. This book will be missing 3 pages, which are scattered in various locations in the Maw. First, we'll grab the Rune Codex page Binding. This is located in the Tremaculum, and is actually up in the area where Anduin was chained up during the beginning of the expansion. There will be a small teleporter in the Tremaculum that takes you up to the correct platform. As a side note, I actually found a second location for this same page down on an altar in the same area, so there might be multiple locations for some of these items. Anyways, onto the Souls page. This is located back in Perdition Hold, basically where the rare Thanatos spawns. It'll be laying on the floor next to this skull altar thing on the right hand side. Lastly, we have the Forging page. This is located in the Beastwarrens in the southwestish section of it, in the Death's Howl Cave. It'll be tucked away in the back left by a pillar with a bunch of scrolls near it. Once you've found all these pages, you can right-click them in your inventory to add them to the partial rune codex, resulting in an intact rune codex. Without spoiling too much of the lore and thematic purposes behind all this, we'll need a ton of Stygia bars now and some Soulforger's tools to craft a suit of armor, which we'll then be placing a willing soul of inside to create our mount. This is why I strongly recommend finding as many Stygia Nexuses while doing this stuff, as you need 200 of both of those Stygia dusts and Stygia slivers. For now though, we're gonna head to find the Soulforger's tools, and there just so happens to be a rare named Soulforger Rhovus in Zoval's Cauldron. So head on back that way and be prepared to camp him a bit, as since he is now required for this mount secret, he will be killed a lot more than usual. Once you slap this guy around enough, he will relinquish his tools. Now, if you haven't farmed up all 200 of those Stygia slivers and dusts yet, the best I can tell you for getting a lot of them is to roam the Beastwarrens. While this area is by far one of the most dangerous and mob-dense areas in the Maw, it has tons of grappling points and caves that the Stygia Nexuses will spawn in. Again, even with already having a Maw mount, this took me many hours, and this was all done in a day. Maybe it was bad luck, maybe people were just beating me to a lot of them, but I felt like I found a lot of these pretty quickly, and it still took a while. Once you hopefully have all your dusts and slivers, and maybe even your sanity too, we'll head back to Perdition Hold. There are a ton of grappling spots up the side of this tower, and we're gonna go all the way up. If you've ever fought the rare Exos Herald of Domination before, then you'll know this area pretty well. Even further up the tower, there is a special huge anvil. This is where we're going to use those Soulforger's tools and all that dust and slivers to craft 20 Stygia bars. You're then going to craft an armored husk with those bars and the tools. Next, we need to find a willing soul. This is actually the easiest part of the whole process, thankfully, as there just so happens to be a huge wolf running through the Gorgoa, the River of Souls. He spawns at the southern half and runs to the north and repeats this over and over, so if you're patient, he'll eventually just run right into you. I went up to the southern half of the river and found him pretty quickly though. Once you click on his soul, you'll gain the Willing Wolf Soul item. Next, we're going to head back to Venari's Refuge. Right outside the refuge is a Maw structure, and in it is the Binding Altar. Click on this and you'll do a really long channeled spell, eventually combining the Armored Husk and Wolf Soul into a Feral Shadehound. This will give you a quest, telling you that you must bind this Shadehound to you before you can use it as a mount. To do this, you'll need to know the special order of runes, as you'll have to ride this wild Shadehound mount around while selecting the runes in the correct order on like a vehicle command bar sort of thing. To know the correct order, you'll just have to look at that crumbling steel from earlier now that we've decoded it due to the codex we put back together. You'll see 4 symbols, and this will be the order you have to click them in. So you can always, of course, open your trusty MS Paint and, draw these symbols perfectly so that you can remember them, or, yeah, you could probably just take a screenshot and copy-paste it so you have a quick reference on, like, a second monitor or something. When you're ready to bind the Shadehound to you, simply right-click on the Feral Shadehound item in your inventory, and you'll be thrown onto the mount, and it won't stop running until you click these 4 symbols in the right order. So yeah, make sure you're in a safe spot when you do this. Once you complete the binding ritual, the Feral Shadehound quest will be completed, and your reward will be the Bound Shadehound. This particular recolor of the maw mount is the lightest in coloration of the 3, but otherwise it is completely identical to the others. Other than that, you of course have like an actual attachment and bond to it via a pretty complicated puzzle quest chain thingy. Well folks, I hope this video helps you add another mount to your collection, or maybe it's even your first maw specific mount so you can get around there just a little bit easier. Admittedly, if it wasn't for the sake of putting a guide together, I probably would have broken up my Nexus farming over the course of a few days, because farming that many Nexuses and running around and stealthing and CCing things and avoiding things and just fighting with other people for nodes and all that was quite strenuous and took quite a bit of time. Like I said, the process from beginning to end was at least like 5-6 hours minimum, I think. But if you really want a maw mount, it can be done in a day. If you enjoyed this video then, please consider leaving a like, a comment, or maybe even subscribing to the channel yet if you haven't. It's all really appreciated and helps a lot with the channel's growth. As always, I want to extend my gratitude to you, my viewers, commenters, subscribers, and especially my patrons, who all help make these Sheba shenanigans possible. Thank you all so much for watching. This is the Red Rogue, and I'll see you guys around.